Hey guys, it's Christina from Our Rich Journey, and in today's video, I want to talk to you about budgeting. Now, budgeting is such a huge piece to financial literacy, into reaching financial independence, but I feel like so many people budget incorrectly. So in this video, I want to take you inside our budget template to show you what we use on our financial independence journey. And I want to talk to you about the way that we budget and how it's pretty much in complete contrast to how most people budget. So I really want you to walk away being excited about budgeting, thinking about budgeting differently. And for those of you that have a hard time budgeting, I'll also include some tips for what you can do to make it easier to budget. So first, what I want to do is open up our budget template and show you the template that we use to budget on our FIRE journey. Now, if you want a copy of this budget, you can go to ourrichjourney.com, and I'll also leave a link in the description below. So here is our budget, and just to let you know, these numbers aren't our numbers, but we included numbers just so you can see how the expense summary chart and the tables work. Now, as you can see, our budget is a lot different than other budgets that you might have seen, and that's because our budget is focused on paying yourself first. And what this means is that with our budget, you start off by identifying all of your income sources. So things like your 9-to-5 job, maybe you have a side hustle, money coming in from that, or maybe you have income coming in from rental properties. All of your sources of income should be listed up front in your budget. Then the first expense you want to think about is the money that should be going directly to you. So not money that goes to your mortgage company or your landlord or to your Netflix account or to your favorite restaurant. Identify the money that should go directly to you. So that means money that should go to things like your emergency fund, your savings accounts, your retirement accounts like your 401k or your IRA, and your standard brokerage account. And after you identify those accounts and the amount of money that you should be putting into each of those accounts, that's when you go through the line items in the rest of the budget to allocate where the rest of your money will go. And as you can see, as you fill out the budget, you'll see a breakdown per category of the way you spend your money. And this can really help you focus on areas that you may be overspending. So we really think this is the best way to budget, by paying yourself first. But a lot of times people work the opposite way. They'll work through their budget and they'll look at all of the expenses that they have and they'll go through that. And then any money that they have left over, if they have any money left over, that will go to paying themselves in the form of their savings account, their emergency funds, or their investment accounts. Now, the problem with this is that it's a very reactive approach to budgeting instead of a proactive approach. So when you list all of your expenses first and you're not focused on paying yourself first, you're focused more on your wants versus what you really need. And this can get you in that mindset trap where you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're not focused on growing your wealth. So the traditional approach to budgeting is really designed to make people think about how much money they can save after pretty much all of their money is spent. But with our approach to budgeting, with our pay yourself first type of budgeting, the idea is completely opposite. With this type of budgeting, you're thinking about how much money you can spend after you've saved the money that you need to save in those priority accounts. Now, this type of budget doesn't mean that you need to deprive yourself of everything or that you need to be frugal, but a pay yourself first type of budget really allows you to be more intentional with your spending and with your money, and it also allows you to really prioritize what is most important to you. So like I said, if you are interested in the pay yourself first budget and you want to use it, you can get a free copy at ourrichjourney.com. I will also leave a link in the description below. Now, for those of you that just find budgeting in general very difficult to do, I have a couple of tips to make budgeting easier for you. So the first tip is to develop a consistent routine. So what you want to do is pick a time and day of the week where you can set aside some time to just sit down and review your budget. Another thing to do is to set up notifications, and this makes budgeting so much easier for us. So what you can do is you can set up notifications from your bank and your credit card so that every time you make a purchase, you can be notified of that purchase. It just makes it so much easier to gather all that information when you're routinely and consistently reviewing your budget each week, and you can add that information into your budget. Now, you may not be able to set up notifications for all of your different payment platforms. So, if you can't do that, the next thing that I would suggest is that you just routinely start jotting down all of your purchases as soon as you make them. So that way you're not forgetting about them, and it makes it much easier to add them to your budget and to track them each week as you're sitting down and reviewing your budget. Another tip is to just keep all of your receipts. Store them away in a dedicated folder or an envelope, and every week when you have that consistent review of your budget and your expenses, you can open up that folder of receipts and go through them. Now, this is really helpful because your receipts will also help you categorize all of your different expenses. And then when you're done with them, you can set them aside. You don't have to go back through them again. So each week you should be going through your receipts, itemizing them, putting them into the proper category, and then saving new receipts for the following week's review. Another thing to make budgeting easier is to simplify the process. A lot of times when people start, they will put down, for example, an expense that is $4.87. What you can just do is round up that amount. So instead of $4.87, put $5. It's just easier for you to keep track of whole numbers, and it makes the process more simplified. Now, of course, you want to make sure that you're rounding up and not down, but again, just simplifying the process by thinking of things in whole numbers can really help with the budgeting process. And finally, I think this last thing is really important, not just with budgeting, but with anything in general, and it is to embrace your mistakes. You are not expected to be perfect. Your budgeting is not expected to be done perfectly. So if you make mistakes, if you fall off, if your budgeting categories aren't perfect, there's always lessons to be learned. But I think the most important thing is to embrace those mistakes and keep pushing forward and not to give up. Because as you consistently learn to budget more and more, you're doing it every single week, it will become more like second nature to you, and it will become that much easier. So that is it, the pay yourself first budget. That is the way that we focus on budgeting, and that is also the way that helped us reach financial independence. So again, if you want a copy of the budget, go to ourrichjourney.com, or we'll leave a link in the description below. And of course, if you like this video, make sure you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join the journey.